And then just stop and stand and don't change anything about how you're standing, however you landed. Yeah. And we think so much about what a perfect footprint is, but forget all that and really just let your feet do what they do. Totally relax. So for me, my left foot is always going to pronate unless I get that exact right neural input and the arch lifts for about a day and then it falls down again. So just be accepting here. Notice how your feet are connecting with the ground, and then scan your attention up. How does the footprint position the knee? And what does that feel like at the hip? And what's the sensation in the low back and up from there? What do your shoulders feel like? So just a couple breaths of noticing. And then we'll do a few things and kind of check back in and just see if anything has changed. So for starters, I think we're very aware that rolling the bottoms of the feet can change the footprints, but let's do our little shin and front of the ankle rolling. So bring your roller across, and you might try going on knuckles just so we're getting also a little bit of work for wrist stability, but if that doesn't work for you, of course, go to palms. But also, in general, let's have most of the weight way back on the roller. So take a moment here. You might let your toe tips just rest lightly on the floor so we feel pretty balanced here. And then just a little bit of cat-cow so we get some spinal movement. You might feel like a careful cat-cow because we're sort of balancing here. Yeah. And then just keep a little bit of that lift up in the middle, micro cat feeling, just so we're extra supported through the core. And then let's find the roller like right below the kneecap. Feel how there's a little divot almost in between your kneecap and the top of your shin bone. So we're there. And then let's just drop the knees forward a tiny bit so we kind of bump over that upper shelf of the shin bone, and then go back again so you're right above the shin. So just a tiny little up down. So we're gently rolling the tendon of the quadriceps as it comes down the thigh, surrounds the kneecap, and then attaches to the top of the shin bone. Yeah, and trying to not ever get directly on the kneecap, but right below. Good. Okay, and then from here, it's up to you, kind of dropping the knees forward and down so we can start to roll along the shin. You might sit your butt down toward your heels to the extent that that knee bend feels okay. And then we can push back to where we started, a little bit more all fours. And again, like keep as much of the weight back in the shins and the roller as you can tolerate. Obviously, now we're getting into rolling out some fascial compartments that might feel pretty tight, but keep trying to take weight out of the arms and really sit it back into the roller. Yeah, moving the breath. Good. And then the next time you drop forward, let's continue forward. If it feels okay to be so folded, let's get a little bit more toward the front of the ankle so we can, do a little push-pull through the arms. So we're staying folded up, kind of child's posy, and seeing if we can get all the way to the front of the ankle. Yeah, and then that lower bit of the shin, a few more times there. Easy breath. And then when you're ready, slowly make your way back to where we started, closer to the knee, and then all the way back. And let's just come right up to standing and check in. And again, do just a few little marching steps lazily, and then stop and stand, and let's see how we land here. And then again, just notice footprint on up and see what differences we feel having released that front chain a little bit. Good, okay, and while we're up here, let's go ahead and grab that pinky ball. Now we'll roll the bottoms of the feet a bit. Again, maybe have a hand on your roller or on a chair, so balance is super easy. And we can really, again, commit weight into that ball, really lean on it, center the arch, and with as much weight and pressure on it as you can, rolling heel bone to ball of the foot. And if we think about the 5 distinct balls of foot in line with each toe, see if you can do, along each ray from the heel bone to each ball of the foot. Give each line a little bit of attention as best you can. At a certain point, it might feel like the ball's gonna pop out from under there. But just try to be really thorough. Couple more breaths of leaning and rolling. Good. Zero in on what feels like the tightest spot, and let's just lean for a second and really soften the foot. Let it just, kind of curl around the ball as we lean and relax. And then let's drag back until the heel can rest on the ground. So we've got the heel on the floor and the ball of the foot's propped up. And with the heel staying grounded, let's do that little side waggle of the forefoot. So we're kind of going across the ball of the foot with the ball there. And then center yourself, and then just pick the toes up and drop them a few times. Pick the toes up, drop them. Up, drop, one more, up, drop. Good. Okay, just very briefly stand on 2 feet. Notice that they're so different. And then let's go to our other side and start with checking out the lean. And also, where does the ball need to be relative to your standing foot, so we feel like we can commit the weight, but also feel really solid and balanced. Yeah. And then leaning and rolling. And again, think of all 5 rays and seeing if you can check out each line, heel to each ball of foot. Nice deep breath in, big sigh of relief. Good, and finding your tightest spot, and let's just lean, letting the foot be melty. Again, really thorough exhales of the letting go variety, reinforcing that sense of relaxation, release. Good. Okay, and then let's drag the heel back so it can stand heavily into the ground. And then little side waggle. And then center the ball, still dropping weight through the heel. Let's pick the toes up, drop them, pick them up, drop them. Good, good. Okay, and then you can kick the ball out of the way. Let's briefly stand on 2 feet, see where we're at. And then while we're standing here, really aware of the feet, let's do the one where the outside 4 toes stay down, and we're just picking up the big toes as high as we can. But even look down and be sure your other 8 toe pads are still on the floor. And then let's press the big toe pads into the floor and pick up the outside 4. And at first, let's go down with the outside 4, then lift the big toe, ground down through the big toe, lift the outer 4. And you can either keep going like that if that's helpful, or you can challenge yourself to just switch, switch, switch. Yeah. Send that telegram down to the toes. Good. 4, 3, 2, 1. All the toes picked up. Fan them out really nice and wide. And then lay them back down on the ground and take a moment to feel the spaced out toe pads connecting to the floor and just see how things feel at this moment. Now let's try another thing from on top of the roller. Let's come back down to where we were before with the roller kind of just below the kneecap, above the shelf of the shin. And then, this one can be tricky if you have a bunion or have had bunion surgery, but to really work on the bend at the ball of the foot joint. So we've got the toes pulled forward under toward the roller as much as possible. And then just a little backward pulse with this. So we're like pulsing the heels back. Yeah, so we're using the shift of the whole body to feel that we're deepening the ankle flex, lengthening the Achilles tendon. Yeah, and just seeing if we can feel the heel bone pulse back just like a millimeter. Good. And then you can kind of keep your torso balanced in one spot. We're going to push forward and exaggerate the bend at the ball of the foot, and then again pull the heel bones as far back as we can. And same thing, let as much weight stay on the roller as possible as we do this rather than getting too into the arms. Yeah, so again, maximizing the bend at the ball of the foot and the flex at the ankle, alternately back and forth. Yeah, and if it feels okay for your toes, you could even feel when you press forward, like the ball of the foot is kind of peeling out of the ground and just the very bent backward toe tips are on the floor, but again, no strain feeling, just stretch feeling. Good. Okay, and next time you're coming back, let's go ahead and shift our weight back and come just one more time up to our feet. Take a moment to check in with the footprints. Good. And now let's just take a slow walk up and down the length of the mat. The mat's nice because we get that imprint of the footprint. We can feel it maybe a little bit more clearly. And let's think about, as we take the back foot out of the ground to take our next step forward, what we just practiced, really bending at the ball of the foot, getting the ankle open, and then even get a little push off through the toe tips to take your next step. And we can just go back and forth, back and forth. Notice that we have to take pretty small steps to have time to really roll through the foot like this. But once you feel that, like you're really articulating through all those little joints, then you might start to go a little faster and kind of play with what is the size of step and what is the pace of walking, where we still have time and attention to be sure we're really rolling through the foot. Beautiful. Yeah, let's just do a couple more passes, playing with stride length, playing with pace. Maybe walk around the room a little bit more so you don't get dizzy from all the switchbacks. Great, 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 great.